Hi everyone! We are in week 5 of our Journey to the Cross project already. In this video, we're going to be focusing on day 33. So on this day, Paul Tripp describes God as the author of our lives. And with that, a lot of times, he writes tough, difficult, sometimes painful circumstances that do not make sense to us at the time when we're walking through them. So what do we do when you are following God and His plan puts you where He wants you, but you look around and it's somewhere that you don't want to be? We can quickly want to take that pen out of God's hand and cross out what He has written, right? And then rewrite our own better plan. And we find ourselves even questioning, is He even a good author, trustworthy of our lives? But there's a truth that Paul Tripp has written on page 191, where he says, what your Lord has written for you is not less than the plot you have written for yourself, but infinitely more. When we recognize that God is the ultimate author of our life, we can also recognize that we don't know how our story goes. We don't know where this chapter is leading. The dreaming, optimistic side of us has great ideas of what we would like it to be. And the worried, cynical side of us has all kinds of fears of what it could be, right? But we don't actually know the details of our future. Only God does. But the better we know the hand that's writing our story, the better we can trust and let go of our co-grip on the pen and walk in whatever He has that He's writing. So when I was in college, friends of mine asked me to join their team for a run. They were going to run a race in a couple of months. They told me that this was going to be a fun 5K race with a couple obstacles to complete along the way as the team. No problem, I thought. I had run cross country in high school. I was a little rusty, but I had a couple months to work my way back up to a good time for this 5K so that I wouldn't slow my team down. So I agreed to do this race. So for the next couple months, I was on a treadmill at the gym and followed my well thought out plan to reach my 3-mile goal by race day. I figured I would just take on the obstacles when they came, and when I got there, I'd just figure it out. Boy, was I wrong. Turned out I was not even close to prepared for what this race course was. I started out fine at the starting line, just a big crowd of people running through some mud. I can do that, no problem. Then I looked up and I saw something in the distance was blocking the path, but no one was slowing down and no one was avoiding it. We just kept running towards it. To my surprise, this first obstacle was a 13-foot wooden wall that we were all supposed to get up and over using only our teammates. I assure you, no amount of running on a flat surface back at the gym gave me the skills to make a 3-person high human ladder and get the rest of the team over safely to continue with the race. I quickly realized I was not prepared for this race. Running hands-free on a treadmill never strengthened my hand's grip to swing across this drop-off while death gripping a 3-inch thick rope. And my new running shoes that I had broken in, it didn't matter so much when I was army crawling my way through 100 meters of plywood-covered muddy trenches. But I was on this course regardless of how prepared I was, and I made it across the finish line, but I was a complete wreck, and I did slow my team down. My whole goal for the months leading up to the race was to dedicatedly train so that I didn't slow my team down. And I didn't deviate from my training plan, right? But I had no idea the obstacles that we were going to face. So my plan didn't really matter. It wasn't enough. And I was unprepared when I got there. This is a not so proud moment, a memory that pops into my head when I'm thinking about who should be leading my life. So will you read with me Psalm 18? I'm going to be starting in verse 30. This God, His way is perfect. The word of the Lord proves true. He is a shield for all those who take refuge in Him. For who is God but the Lord? And who is a rock except our God? The God who equipped me with strength and made my way blameless. He made my feet like the feet of a deer and set me secure on the heights. He trains my hands for war so that my arms can bend a bow of bronze. You have given me the shield of your salvation, and your right hand supported me, and your gentleness made me great. And then go down to verse 39. For you equipped me with strength for the battle. You made those who rise against me sink under me. Now, if God is the one who trains my hands for war, He's strengthening me to be able to bend this bow of bronze. then I am not going to be the best one to call the shots on how I can train, right? And get to the next point in my life. Now, I can't prepare myself for what I don't know is coming. I can try to guess what I expect to come, but I don't actually know. And so God is going to be the best one to know what we need to walk through to strengthen us so that we can walk into what he has next for us. And another passage I want us to go to is Matthew 11:28. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. This is Jesus talking to people, telling them that his yoke is easy and his burden is light. He is not saying that the path that you walk is easy or that you won't have really heavy times that you walk through. He says, learn from me. He will show you better than anyone can, even better than ourselves, how to walk the path that you're on. His yoke is easy and his burden is light because you're yoking yourself with him. You're no longer alone. He wants to carry this with you and walk this with you and guide you as you go. But listen, if you try to yoke yourself with Jesus and then yank yourself your own direction, well, now that's no longer going to feel easy or light, right? If we're both yoked together and I'm going one way and you're going the other way, this is a really tough fight that we're wrestling now. One of the most difficult seasons in my life was our oldest son. He was born and he needed to be in the NICU for almost 7 months. This was a hard, heavy situation, and I know that we have all walked through our own hard, heavy situations, some more than others. But for me, this was hard and heavy, what I was sitting in, but even more so because I was wrestling with God so much in that time. I was yoking myself with him, walking with him, and then when things didn't seem like they were going right, I would try to yank the other direction because it felt like I knew a better way. When I really couldn't change the circumstance at all, right? I remember waking up every morning in a place I didn't want to be, but I also knew this is where God had me, and I didn't understand why we were there and why for so long. But this was the environment that I learned to let God be the author, because his plan is better than anything I would ever choose for myself, right? We would never choose to walk through something hard. We're just not going to. I would not have learned to let God be the author and I get to just follow and he guides me if I had just walked my easy, trial-free plan for my own life that I would choose for myself, right? You learn this when you trudge through the unexpected, difficult times and even painful times. Then in those times, you see that God is still good. So when you're going through the reflection questions this week, one of them for day 33 is, what parts of your story are you trying to write yourself? Are you willing to give God control? What are you afraid of? Now, I encourage you to write down what you're afraid of. Take a piece of paper and actually think about it. Write down the specifics. What are your fears? Maybe some are less likely to occur than others, and you know that, but they are all felt. So write them down. And take the time this week to seek out the promises that God gives us to combat that fear. Not just if we see ourselves as victims of God's will, no matter what, because he's in control, but what happens if you let go of your grip on the pen? What fears pop up for you? And it's going to be different for all of us. I worked on this myself this week, and for me, I have a real fear of missing out. When I'm letting go of the pen and letting God write what he wants to write, I have this nagging thought in the back of my head. What if I miss out on something that could have been better? Well, then I read Psalm 84:11. And it says, "For God is a sun and shield. The Lord bestows favor and honor. No good thing does he withhold from those who walk uprightly." I can't hold both of these things in my hand. I can't be worrying that I might miss out on something better, but then also hold the promise that God doesn't withhold anything that he sees is good from me. Right? They can't exist together. So now I need to choose which is going to hold weight in my daily life, so that when God says no to me, to something that I feel like I do need, I can choose to trust Him. And that has honestly lightened my burden this week already. So I encourage you to dive into your own fears. Be honest with yourself. What will happen? When God has the pen, what are you afraid of? And then let God speak truth into them. Have a great week.